Should we just jump in?
Sure.
Okay. Wait, no. I'm gonna run. This beer's gonna run out before we're done the podcast. So just one
Well,
second.
you better get another one. Yeah.
That's important. We have no problem with you refreshing your beverage.
Yes.
I think people expect it from us now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Primarily Critical. If we moved down that party, this would be it.
If you have not seen this movie, we suggest that you do so before you consume this.
Because we've got spoilers, trivia, opinions like crazy, and we cannot wait to share them.
Good, bad, new, old, weird, or gross.
We will pass judgment on them all.
Today, who's the boss? My name is Steve. I'm here with
Bill?
and
John.
today we're covering Blinded by the Light. This was Phil's pick, and Phil, why did you pick it? And what's the boss reference?
I feel like I'm doing like Price is Right or like the weather. Anyways,
No, you're Vanna White.
I'm Vanna White. For what was the question, Steve?
Why did you pick the movie?
Why did I pick this movie?
What is the boss reference?
Yeah.
The boss reference. Well,
Boss level.
The boss level.
What?
Oh, wait, what am I saying? Never mind. That's the wrong
We are reviewing Blinded by the Light, right?
Blinded by the Light.
Talk about a rocky beginning. This is just...
Bruce Springsteen
There's some
has a
confusion
nickname.
here.
And the nickname is
I know.
the boss.
Right.
You know what? I'll try to make this all make sense here. We're doing another movie later that has the title Boss in it. And in this movie, people refer to Bruce Springsteen as the boss.
Ask the boss.
Why is he the boss? I do not know. I'm not a big enough fan of the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
It's what I guess fans, like any fans of super fans of bands, started calling him something. Do you know, Steve? John?
I don't.
I don't.
I feel like we should, though, for this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me get my notes. I have no notes on that. So, I'm like on the fan spectrum. Like, how big of fans were you of the boss before we get into the movie itself?
Well, I am a big fan. Well, I shouldn't say big fan. I'm a fan. My dad was a bigger fan. And so, you know how you are with parents' music. You kind of don't listen to your parents' music until you're older and, you know, you've had decades pass from growing up. And then you start listening to it again. I actually inherited my dad's complete set of Bruce Springsteen on vinyl. On vinyl, yes.
Wow.
And so there are some nights where I'll just sit down and just play nothing but the boss all night long, right? So, excellent songwriter. I mean, he's got, you know, he's an excellent songwriter, no question about it.
Wow. That is a cool backstory. I didn't expect that answer. My answer is not that exciting. I think I was aware of him through getting the big album was Born in the USA, right?
Yes.
Cassette. Now, Steve, your thoughts?
I was never a big Bruce Springsteen fan, but I'm familiar enough with his music to say I think I might know who that artist is. I had other artists that I loved.
Of that era? Yeah.
No, not of that. Well,
what? It's not
now.
a question.
Now I'm a big Johnny Cash fan, but I was growing up. I wasn't.
Okay, sorry, that's not a good way to phrase that question because the era doesn't matter. If you're a fan of music, it doesn't matter if they're live or dead or they're current or not. The boss, Bruce Springsteen, just recently restarted his Broadway show, so he's still going and he's 71. I mean, I think I'm in awe of rock stars that are still going and still doing it. But I was never a big...
I thought he was older.
Oh, really? He's a very fit guy, and he's still got it, I think. But I was never a big fan.
He was one of those guys that looked old for his age. You know what I mean? When he was a young buck in the 80s, he didn't look like he was like in his 20s. He looked like he was in his 30s already. He kind of had that.
He had to been. I don't even know the time frame. Like I know he became a big thing in the 70s, and then in the 80s he really peaked. And that I think what I like about this movie, to tie this in, is that I love how they dedicated this movie in the look and the feel, the sound of the late 80s, 87 and 88. And they really went for it. Like the style, my wife and I watched it. They played songs from that era, and throughout the movie they played the Boss's music constantly.
Yes.
Of course,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And
I wrote down, would you consider this movie a musical?
It was borderline because they went into tangents of doing musical things, but they got away with it still being in reality because people are just saying, "Get out of here, wankers!" and being.
Well, this is the thing is that okay. I can't say that the musical portions like where it was actually where there's musical like where it was like. I can't say it ruined the movie for me, but because this was based on a true story, it kind of took me out of that aspect of it. It's kind of like it took it away from the true story to theatrics, right? Where
it was borderline musical. Whereas, okay, I'll make a comparison. I think I compare it to a movie I recently saw in that same genre is Rocket Man, the story of Elton John, where they fully went for it. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. Oh, maybe I'll pick it down the line. But anyways, when they went musical, like full on, like trippy and stuff. This movie still tried to keep a foot in the reality, and they went. But I don't know if it was effective. But I
enjoyed this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and like you, I'm a sucker for anything 80s. I mean, it's that's when I grew up, right? So it's fun to see all that stuff and relive that stuff. And so there's definitely a nostalgic factor, which makes me biased, right? I mean, I certainly can't watch this movie like a millennial might watch this movie. I just can't. I'll lose perspective because I just get caught up in that stuff. But all in all, I did think this was a good movie. I mean, I think it's a neat story. I mean, I think, who doesn't want to watch the underdog succeed, and that's what we're talking about here. And who doesn't want to watch someone that feels like they're trapped, repressed, and not allowed to be their true self, find the courage and grow that strength and break free and become that person they were meant to be, right? I mean, that's always a good story. It's a good foundation for any movie and story. So it had those elements, and that was powerful, and that was made it a fun watch, right? So
yeah.
It really did. It really
Steve,
did.
I have some opinions, but sure, Steve.
I guess I felt a little out of place. I don't know anything about Pakistan. I know next to nothing about Britain, and I know very little about the Boss. But there have been songs with.
This is typical, primarily critical, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
You shut your face. There have been musical artists with lyrics that really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I really embraced it. And I love the lyrics of Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine.
Sure.
Is there any musical lyrics that really stirred you?
Yes.
Tons. Yes, tons.
But
anyone in particular?
Well, I want to make a quick point.
I could go on and on, but
to your point, Steve, I don't think if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, and I know some mega fans, like seriously fans, that dig deep, and he's got a lot of music to dig into. I'm not, so I don't. I found this movie to be overpowering with the Bruce Springsteen, like it was like a cult. After a while, it was felt like a too much, like a little much.
Yeah, because I was never as much as I can relate to loving bands and loving music, I was never like that hardcore on one band. You had to diversify. There's multiple bands, right? But this, you're right. He really only just seemed to love Bruce Springsteen.
But in all fairness, you could do this movie about any number of artists that could deserve this kind of respect. It's just a weird. thing.
Yeah.
If it's your,
He even spoke to his friend. He said, I'm sure you have artists that speak to you, and they're just as good, but Bruce is speaking to me.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, Steve, I'll get back to your prior question. Like, is there any artist that inspired me or made me really? It doesn't matter what you're into. Of course. Like, I'm Rage Against the Machine lyrics incite a lot of thought in a direction, right? Gosh, right off the top of my head, I love the Police and Sting lyrics.
I was going to say that. I was going to finish that sentence for you.
But it's my personal opinion, right? Yeah. So here's the thing: if this movie was made about being inspired by Sting, then I'd probably be all, I love this movie. And but when you're not a super fan of certain music, it's still a great story, like John talked about. I've seen this story in different interpretations in different movies, but with the backdrop of a music soundtrack, I love that. You guys know I love music movies, but I was okay with the movie. I felt like it was good, but not sensational. I didn't
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, here's a question for you guys. Would it have been better if it was more, because it's based on a true story, would it have been better if it was more factual of the story and more serious of a movie about the story? Or would that have been a worse? Because that would have taken away,
How so? Like, how would you cut out the music numbers, the dancing, and the...
Yeah, you cut out all that stuff, and the lyrics on the screen.
You didn't like that effect? Guys, I thought.
I'm not saying I did not like it. I'm just asking you.
I thought it was neat because it focuses on his lyrics, right? Like the Pink people. This movie could be made about, like I said, Leonard Cohen or something, or it could be made about pick your artist, Neil Young, where the lyrics are maybe more important than the music sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you could have your whatever.
Well, one of the things I think which I liked about this and why Bruce Springsteen is because Bruce Springsteen was a very misunderstood artist, right? Very much people thought of him as really he gained this massive popularity over his song "Born in the USA."
Oh, sure.
And people just really didn't understand that this is a protest song, right?
Protest song.
They just thought there's a million idiots out there, and I'm one of them with certain songs where you hear that catchy little tune of the chorus of a song, you don't really bother to figure out any more than that. And so this was like a pro-American, like I'm born in the USA, and really he's mocking that exact ideology in the song. I mean, so it's not something to be proud of. I mean, but yet people are listening to it, and I think that's why that song went amazingly well. So I think it was good in this movie that they brought the lyrics of that
insight.
To show that insight into who Bruce really was. That he's a guy that was dealing with struggle and not happy about how the world was going, things that,
And Steve made the point of Rage Against the Machine, Zach de la Roche's lyrics, same thing, same damn thing. People listen to Rage Against the Machine and they think they're rocking out, they're Republican, they're like, no, this is a band that does not like Trump, no, this is not like a fun party song. It's some serious human rights, racial lyrics. It's nothing about certain bands' lyrics and John, that's an excellent point because a lot of Bruce Springsteen's music has a feeling of it's arena rock, and he's known for his legendary, epic live shows. But he covers the spectrum of music enough. But he has his songs where it's like it was a huge song, Born in the USA, but it was, like you said, it was not what
people thought it was. Yeah. It was probably not what made it as number one on the charts either,
And in that genre, like Steve Earle's Copperhead Road, right? When you get into it, but the meaning of it is not what you think, or on and on, the list goes on. Like,
Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering, as maybe the movie studios really wanted to make a Bruce Springsteen movie, and he's not the kind of guy that would go for
Yeah.
like a Queen movie or
No,
an
there's
Elton John movie, and he's like, you know what, like do
this.
directions, do this.
Well,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and obviously you'd have to put a seal of approval on this, which because you can't have. He obviously did. And I think
Clearly.
that's great. I think that's great with all the like racial tension that's going on in the States right now. To have the boss come forward and endorse a movie that's about the struggles of immigrants and facing all the racial tensions that are going on in the United States. I mean, good on him. Once again, it speaks to Bruce's character, and so.
Yeah,
you gotta love the guy. I mean, he's a good human being,
Yeah.
and that's
absolutely right. Like, he's a champion of the people. I think he's a champion of from what I get, and I'm not a huge fan, so I'm not one to speak. But he seems like he's for the common man and it's the working class and all that. And
working class, yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
I might just pick up an album by him.
I need
He's got some good songs, and the thing is that his real gems you guys probably have never heard because
but like
they don't,
any artist, if you don't do a deep dive, you miss the point. I think I need to do a deep dive on some Boss, but I have a hard time with some of his. On a technical note, I have, and people are going to dog me on this, and you can comment if you want. But some of his production of his songs are just overblown to me, and I have a tendency to shut it out after a while. But I know he's done acoustic stuff that's.
This is why I say you do the deep dive, and you'll find a lot more of that than you ever thought. Right? Like the stuff that was glammed up and blitzed up and stuff. That's the stuff that you're familiar with. But you start doing a deep dive, you'll find a lot of really raw, basic tunes that are awesome.
Because as a counter of his popularity in the 80s, I was a way bigger fan of John Mellencamp. And I dug into his stuff more. I just, at certain points in my musical life, or listening, I just dig into certain artists. And maybe I'm missing out on the Boss, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's great. He's good.
I hear.
Maybe we could all use a little bit more Boss in our lives.
We need more Boss in our life.
We could. I think we could.
Explain the Boss question? I don't think so.
I gotta get another beer. I'll be right back.
I'll start in on this trivia and maybe it'll spark some more conversation.
Oh,
how about that?
I didn't prepare notes. I was pretty rushed today to get this going.
That's okay. It's okay.
I know. I'm trying.
The movie was inspired by the life of journalist Sarfraz Manzoor.
That sounds good to me.
I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. And his love of the works of Bruce Springsteen. It is based on Manzoor's memoir, Greetings from Bury Park, Race, Religion, and Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Rock and roll!
You know what I gotta say? I didn't say this earlier, but I loved how they depicted a fan of music. And I love a music, who cares who you are into? Who's to tell you? Like the main character's friend that lived in the same apartment complexes, he was into new wave music and he was not on the same page musically. But at the end, they came to a common ground. You like what you like, and I like what I like. And I liked how the fandom of the expression of loving music. I remember those times in the 80s, and you guys can concur with me. I had the headphones on. I always had the Walkman, and I was doing the same thing with whatever band I was into at the time. And I love that. I love that.
I'm glad you brought this up because one of the things is that being really into a particular artist was way more 80s a thing in the 80s than you would find today, because back then, exactly what you're saying, you had a Walkman, and you could carry, you carry maybe one or two tapes with you. Yeah. Now, what that was one or two artists, and so you had all the song, an entire album, right? Which is something people don't do anymore, right? You don't just put on and listen to an entire album from the same artist.
Well,
People have song lists and they mix it up, so they pick right. But so we spent a lot of hours of listening to that whole album, and so you could fall in love with a particular artist because of that, right? Which doesn't really, I don't think, happen anymore. So
totally, the concept of the album is really disappearing. Like the package of a concept of an album, and Bruce Springsteen, I think, was all about, and a lot of artists were. Here's my album from start to finish. You don't appreciate it by picking out songs until you hear the whole body of it.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
The biggest thing about the 80s when the Walkman came along and devices like it freed you from the cord. It freed you from the vinyls being, you could go places, do things.
Mobile music, yeah.
Mobile music. And no matter what you're doing, skateboarding or what have you, in the car, all these things. And at the end of the day, the cassette was a terrible format for audio fidelity. It was awful. But you could make mixtapes. You could give tapes to people.
Oh, yeah.
There's such a social thing about it. You would make mixtapes for your buddy.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. Everyone made a mixtape for the girlfriend.
It was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time from that perspective. Like up till then, you didn't have that kind of a freedom. And wow, I they did a good job of giving you a taste of that 80s vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, like I said, there's this nostalgia factor for me, but I think outside of that, I think people would enjoy it. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think millennials would enjoy this movie?
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, a little sneak peek to what it was like to be us way back in the day. Yeah.
I'm waiting for more 90s movies too, because there's something to be said about they're coming, right? We're getting into the 80s more now.
Yeah, well, the 90s were a very confusing time.
Well, everybody says that about their generation, right? So
maybe.
I think for me, I was just getting into music in the early 80s, but I really started getting into it by the end and the beginning of the 90s, right? But that's me. So I'll take the next tribute. The song "Blinded by the Light" was originally written and recorded by Bruce Springsteen for his debut album, "Greetings from Asbury Park, NJ, New Jersey, 1970." Springsteen himself states that the most important lyric of the song is the final line, "Mama told me not to look into the sights of the sun, but Mama, that's where the fun is."
It's kind of like living on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you go into the sun, you're gonna burn up.
Yeah.
Through the whole movie, the main character, he was using the lyrics to get his point across, and then they had the floating font text.
Yeah.
They really were strong on the lyrics.
Yeah.
Right.
No, well, "Blinded by the Light" though, didn't BTO do the most popular version of that song?
I am not sure. You're right. There's "Blinded by the Light."
Yeah.
That's a different song. Is it? No.
Is that a totally different song?
I have to. I don't know.
I don't know. We want Boss fans to comment on this podcast.
I'm a lousy Boss fan, so I don't really care.
Because there's some controversy about wrapped up like a "blinded by the light," wrapped up like a, and then
that lyric is like everybody
deuce,
it's like a
deuce, right?
Yeah.
But then there's controversy and over the years about what is the deuce. There's a car that people say it's about a car called a deuce at the time, and then and then they actually, I don't know. I thought they talked to the person who wrote it, which I didn't think was Bruce Springsteen. So I am probably talking about a completely different song. But
I'm sorry, but I'm ignorant of that. But there's a classic Saturday Night Live sketch that deals with that song, and they're torturing these guys, and they torture them. They're saying, "What is the lyrics in this song?" And nobody knew, right? That was the gig or the
Well, sometimes I've heard guys say, "No, douche, man. It's wrapped up like a douche."
Deuce.
I'm like, what?
I think I've looked that up before, but I don't.
Wow, it's deuce.
We're getting off.
That don't make no sense.
We're getting off topic.
We are. John, take the next piece of trivia.
Okay, sure. Okay. Rob Brydon, who plays Matt's dad, is a Bruce Springsteen fan in real life and in January 2018 surprised regulars at the Half Moon in Putney by singing a version of Thunder Road with singer-songwriter Martin Joseph.
Yeah, he looked like a Boss fan.
Okay, I thought he looked a lot like Roger Daltrey from The Who.
Oh, you're talking about the dad?
Yeah. Like, I actually looked it up, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Daltrey, man.
I don't know. Daltrey had the real curly hair.
Yeah,
Short-
well, that's the one difference. But facially and stuff, I mean,
Yeah, he was shorter. He had a really long face.
yes.
Hey, you guys did watch the movie all the way out and see the pictures? They showed the real pictures of the characters?
Yes, I did, yes.
And what I loved about, like, and they made a mention, because I didn't make a point of this, how he had his tickets ripped up by his dad for the concert in the UK, in England. But then later on, you think, I was waiting for the payoff or someone would give him tickets to the show.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that was going to happen too, yeah.
And then after the movie, they show the picture and then some text updating you on things, and they say, since the movie or since that time, he went on to see 150 fucking shows of Bruce Springsteen. Okay, you've seen enough of the Boss. who sees 150 shows? Oh, okay, the face,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it looked a lot like him.
Yeah, sure. But who goes to 150 of anything? Now that becomes it becomes like a cult, a religion, or something. Let's get sorry.
They were showing pictures of him backstage with
Bruce. Yeah.
I thought that was all cool and everything, but my God, the devotion some people have. I don't really have that devotion for anything like that.
Well, there's fans and there's fanatics, right?
Times what? 150 times $100 a ticket. We'll say, right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It could be way more than that.
$15,000 of
$15,000.
Don't kid yourself. There could be tickets that are way more than that. You know how it goes. You want
or less.
Wait, no.
Yeah. Bruce Springsteen's song "I'll Stand by You" was previously written for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, released in 2001, but ultimately wasn't used for the movie. It was then leaked in 2016, but this film's soundtrack marks the first official release of the song. I suppose I didn't pick up on it.
I was completely oblivious to this.
Once again, sorry, I'm not a big enough fan, but you know what? That probably made people lose their minds, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're probably pretty happy about that. I know. I'll Stand by You. Yeah. Never even heard of
it. Yeah. Isn't that a song by Sheryl Crow as well? But the same title?
No, you're thinking of Chrissie Hynde.
It's Chrissie Hynde. Sorry.
From The Pretenders.
Oh, wow. See, I don't know. I'm not a big enough fan of the Boss to know, and I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry. You know, you just, in your life, you'll discover things just like the main character. To tie this all together, he had no clue who the Boss was until his buddy slipped him a tape. And that's how it went. Right? If he did not listen to that tape, he could have said, screw you, I'll stick my Wham or whatever. You know, I'll get my musical inspiration from Wham.
Man, I would hate to think where he would have ended up if that was his inspiration.
Oh, man.
But he did not. He put that cassette in his Walkman and it blew his mind.
Yeah. He got the girl. He truly improved his life.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool touch that they actually went to New Jersey and they shot stuff out there, pictures. So they would have physically had to do that, or maybe not. I don't know, movie magic, they could have, whatever. But I thought that was...
there were some really super hokey moments in this movie, and it almost ruined it for me. Like when they're doing that bridge thing where like...
Yeah. You know what? It got a little too. It got a little over the top at times. It definitely did.
Yeah, that was reminiscent of the Breakfast Club. I think they did that walk down the hall or whatever. But yeah, no, it did. Sometimes the musical stuff and those theatrics this is why I brought that up. Is it did take me out a bit, and I'm not saying I hated it.
Yeah.
But it was at times I thought it was a little too much. A little too much.
It got a little too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, man, I think if you're a fan of this Bruce Springsteen, you would probably love this movie to death, or maybe not.
Sure.
But if you're not, you probably think it's a nice movie.
Well, it depends. If you're one of those like "Born in the USA" is the best song ever written, and you don't understand what it's about, you probably not like this.
You're
movie.
misled and misinformed.
Why is the boss doing a movie that involves stories about packies? Right. That's probably what these guys would be thinking, right?
Yeah. So, I don't know.
A little piece of advice, because this probably won't apply to you, but the dear listener, don't try to force your music choices on a girlfriend. It can really backfire, and it can really.
I was wondering where are you taking this there, Steve? Like, where are you going?
I'm not gonna put any names out there, but I know couples that because of exactly what you're talking about, many years in their relationship, they are still very divided on their musical, and I think it's because there was too much of a push in the beginning that there was this clash that they didn't accept each other's music. So lines in the sand were drawn, and they've never really been able to patch that up.
I've ruined relationships. I was like, you have to love this,
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm being very dramatic, obviously.
No, I hope so.
I mean, I soured things before they could get good,
I try not to do that, but you know what? I'm of the opinion now. I'm at the level now in my life. I'm okay with whatever you like. If you like Justin Bieber, fill your.
That's why it's always been easy for me in relationships because I love all music, and I kind of always have. I was listening to symphonies. I had a whole collection of classical music by the time I was 16. Yet I was listening to Metallica. I listen to everything. So I've always been that way, and so it's very easy for me to. Appreciate anyone's musical taste. It's just interest in music is the most important.
I agree, John. Yeah. I think just love music and you get what you want out of it, and who cares what you like? I don't care. Enjoy it. Yeah. Have a good time. Play music. Learn to play an instrument. Do it.
Yeah. I even love Wham, man. Even though I made that little Wham bash, I love it. I love it all.
I kid. I just. That's the fun thing. We can kid around, but when you get really serious, like it's a cult or a religion, Elvis is dead, man. Elvis is dead. Stop looking for him. He's not.
Shut your face, man.
Shut your face.
Shut your face.
Dead. The king.
All right.
There you go. There's another one. He got the king. Why is he the king? We got the boss. We got the king.
The boss. Get the king. You got the prince. He goes on and on.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna wrap this up. Hey, you know that you see on the sheet where it says that we and you? Can we take turns doing that? I'll start.
Oh, okay, all right.
Phil, are you hip?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not following. What are we doing here?
Okay, so on the cheat sheets.
Yes, I'm on the cheat sheet.
Around in the middle of the first sheet, it says suggestions.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And it says that, we, and you. I'll start. Yeah. That was Blinded by the Light.
We are primarily critical, and
you are awesome.
That's awesome. Now, next week, Monday at noon.
We love you. I want to embrace you. I want to hold you.
All right.
You're making it weird.
And watch movies with you all day long.
All right, stop. Okay, we're going to ban you from drinking on the podcast.
I just like getting close to the camera.
Next week, Monday at noon, we're covering Boss Level. That was my pick. I picked it because Prime Video recommended it to me. And that's the only reason I picked it. Yeah. So
Wait.
we're gonna talk about it next week. We can't wait for you to join us. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.